Yep, it's on live on Facebook.
That's good, man. That's good.
Refresh.
I'm not exactly sure where this shows up on here. Yeah,
There it is. Oh, no. Wait. Never mind. Okay, this has us as National Weather Service Lake Charles.
What do you mean?
No, before this was as Ray Patrick, not.
That's just the page it was on. That wasn't. Okay. So this should tell you where your comments are coming from too. The majority will probably be Facebook. But... Okay. Oh, hi, Ashley. You said we got a hot mic? That's because we're playing with some new software. So you get to hear the behind the scenes action, which is, I promise you, not that exciting. All right, now. Good afternoon, once again, from the National Weather Service office in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm meteorologist Donald Jones. I know you're not happy to see my face again. I'm not happy to be back on here with you, as much as I enjoy talking to all of you. You know, it gets old after a while. Unfortunately, we are dealing with another potential severe weather event across our area later this week, specifically on Wednesday. Now, the last severe weather event that we dealt with, there certainly was some severe weather with it. Fortunately, it was off to our east a little bit more. We didn't see a whole lot in the way of significant impacts across our area. That's certainly some good news. I've been getting all kinds of feedback over the last few days. You said it was going to be severe weather and we didn't die. Why didn't we die? We were supposed to die. I'm sorry. I'll try to do better next time if you really, really want to die. I don't think anybody out there is really hoping to get hit by a tornado, so let's hope I'm wrong about this one as well. Now, the good news about this particular storm system is it doesn't look like tornadoes are the primary threat. Unfortunately, we are going to be looking at a significant damaging wind threat. So we're going to talk about that here over the next little while, and it actually has to do with the fact that it's really windy out there today. That's kind of part of it. We're going to kind of go through that and talk about why that's the case. As always, this is a live interactive briefing, so if you have any questions as we go through our briefing, feel free to post them in our comments section, and we'll answer them just as soon as we wrap up our briefing. As you may have heard me say on my supposed hot mic at the top of the broadcast here, we are using some new software to try to broadcast not just on Facebook, but also on YouTube and Twitter this afternoon. So if you notice any significant differences in our broadcast from normal, for those of you who watch us on a regular basis, let us know. We were having some issues with it freezing up last time. If you notice that, please do let us know, and we'll try to correct that as soon as we can. Obviously, the hot mic at the beginning is a little kind of technical issue that we're going to have to deal with anyway. But, you know, that kind of comes with the territory of dealing with new software. But we're trying to reach a broader audience with our broadcast here. So we'll kind of see how that goes. And if you are watching us on Twitter or YouTube, do let us know that as well. as we go through our briefing. You should also be able to comment and ask questions as we go through our briefing. Let's go ahead and jump into it here, though. We do have a cold front that's going to push through the region on Wednesday. If you stepped outside today, you've noticed it's breezy. It's also significantly warmer. We actually had a warm front move through our area earlier this morning, and that is resulting in some warmer afternoon conditions. It's also a little bit more humid out there this afternoon. That's going to kind of set the stage for this next potential severe weather event as this cold front rolls through the area on Wednesday. Now, what we're expecting to develop, and what I'll show you here in just a minute, is actually a squall line. That's not unusual when we talk about cold fronts coming through the area, and also the possibility of some individual storms forming ahead of that squall line, what we call some discrete storms. Now, both of those are going to have the potential to produce severe weather in the form of both damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. Now, it looks like the overall tornado threat, as we already talked about, is not going to be quite as high with this event as it was with the last. Now, it turned out that we didn't see many tornadoes in our area, but I'm sure you were familiar with the very large F3 tornado that moved through parts of New Orleans, and there were a couple of other tornadoes that struck parts of southeast Louisiana last week as well. So just because there's a lower overall risk doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to see a tornado anywhere across the region. But it looks like the biggest threat at this point is going to be for damaging winds. And keep in mind that strong damaging winds can cause just as much damage as a tornado. We're talking hurricane force winds possible with some of these storms, 60, 70, 80 mile per hour winds that are certainly capable of causing some significant damage. So damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes are all going to be a possibility. What I don't expect to be a significant threat with this system is flash flooding. It's going to be a pretty fast moving system. So the other system was a little bit slower. It dumped probably about 2 or 3 inches of rain across a large part of the area. This one's only expected to dump between about 1/4 to maybe up to 1 inch of rainfall. So generally that's not going to be enough to cause a significant flash flooding situation. Now, anytime we see very heavy rainfall falling over a short period of time, there is going to be the risk for some minor street flooding just because the water can't run off quite as fast as it's actually falling out of the sky. So that can result in some short-term, what we call nuisance flooding, essentially just flooding on roadways that'll slow you down. But we're not expecting waters in homes, at least not with this system at this time. This is a look at the Storm Prediction Center severe weather outlook for Wednesday. You can see a large part of the area in that yellow. That's a slight risk. That's a category 2 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center severe weather scale. And then this area highlighted in orange here, which is kind of the northeastern corner of our area. So that's Vernon, Rapides, Avoyelles, Allen, Evangeline, and St. Landry parishes. You are in an enhanced risk. So that's a category 3 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center severe weather scale. So a slightly higher overall risk, kind of the further north and east you get across our region, which is not necessarily unusual. We kind of hinted about this a little bit in our last severe weather event, but actually the cooler waters right along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico, that cooler air that kind of develops along that will actually oftentimes move inland right along the coastline, and that tends to actually inhibit severe weather development right along the coastline. That's why when we're talking about severe weather across our area, usually the further north you go, the higher the overall risk is, and that once again appears to be the case with this system. Again, damaging winds, the highest overall threat. Large hail and tornadoes, though, still going to be a possibility. A very low-end risk for flash flooding. And, of course, we are going to be looking at some lightning as well with these relatively strong storms. Now, we're still kind of a couple of days out from the actual event, so I can't talk specific probabilities of seeing, tornado versus hail versus damaging wind right now. But what we can talk about is the probability overall of seeing any kind of severe weather across our region as we go through the day on Wednesday. And this graphic kind of shows that. So you can see the areas in red here. That's the same area that covers that enhanced risk area. That's a 30% probability or a 30% chance of seeing severe weather of any kind. So that's damaging winds, large hail, or tornadoes within 25 miles of any given location in this area. So if you're in the Alexandria area, that means there's a 30% chance of seeing either large hail, 1/4 inch or larger, damaging winds, which is 60 miles per hour or greater, or a tornado within 25 miles of Alexandria through the day on Wednesday. As you get away further to the south, the area is highlighted in orange here. That's the 15% probability. So if you're in the Lake Charles area, Lafayette, over towards Beaumont, there's a 15% chance of seeing any one of those severe weather events within 25 miles of those locations. And then right along the immediate coastline, kind of down towards Cameron, say down towards Avery Island, those areas, you've got a 5% probability of seeing severe weather within 25 miles of those locations. So as you can see, overall the risk goes down the closer to the coastline you get, and that's a result of that marine layer, those cooler waters right off the coastline that actually inhibits severe weather development right along the immediate coastline. Overall rainfall totals, again, expected not to be too significant. It'll be a nice drenching for those of you planting gardens out there, new spring gardens, but overall not expecting any kind of real significant rainfall, anywhere between about a quarter inch up to an inch of rain possible. If you were out in the desert Southwest, that would be flash flooding type conditions. But for us, that's just a nice spring thunderstorm day. So anywhere between about a quarter inch to up to an inch of rainfall possible across our region going through the day Wednesday. And again, it's going to fall over a pretty short period of time. This is going to be a quickly moving event, as we're going to see here in just a second. So the squall line is only going to be in any individual area for about an hour or so. So even though you're only going to be looking at maybe up to an inch of rain, it's going to fall in a fairly narrow period of about an hour or so going through the day on Wednesday. As I talked about at the top of the broadcast here, we do have a warm front that's lifted across the region. That's going to continue to lift north. You notice those strong southerly winds developing across our area. That's on the backside of this high pressure system here over the eastern Gulf. Remember, winds around high pressure systems spin clockwise. So you can see on the east side, that gives you north winds. On the west side, that gives you south winds. We're on the west side this afternoon, so that gives us strong south winds, and that's why we had that warm front move through our area. Now, here's going to be our cold front as we go into tonight and tomorrow, developing back here across the southwest, across New Mexico and western Texas. This is going to progress east across Texas as we go through the day tomorrow and into Wednesday morning. And as it approaches, it's going to develop a pretty strong squall line right along the leading edge of it. Now, there is the possibility we could see some individual showers and thunderstorms developing out ahead of that line, but the majority of the rain and probably the majority of the severe weather as well is going to develop right along that squall line as it moves through our area Tuesday into Wednesday. Now, once the front moves through, we're going to have high pressure build back into the region Thursday into Friday, so the end of the week looking once again quite nice. But we got to get through this round of severe weather first. Now, let's talk a little bit about timing. The good news is, at least for right now, this appears to be a daytime event. This is something that's going to happen, during the day Wednesday. It may start early in the morning Wednesday morning, but it's going to be primarily a daytime event. So most people are going to be awake to experience this. It's not going to be an overnight event like we saw with the last one, where it kind of started at midnight and went through the really early morning. So again, as we talked about this before, this is just one computer model. So I want you to bear in mind that the timing of this is going to fluctuate. But this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what to expect as far as when the squall line is expected to move through the area. Being as we're still talking a couple of days out, this is very much subject to change. But right now we're looking at about 9 a.m. for the squall line to be approaching parts of southeast Texas, just getting into parts of Tyler, Hardin, and Jefferson County. By noontime, moving into the Beaumont, Orange areas, Jasper, Newton counties, and then approaching the Sabine River right along the Texas-Louisiana state line. Early afternoon, we'll see that activity moving through southwest Louisiana. So Lake Charles up towards DeRidder, Fort Polk, down towards Cameron. Those are the areas that are going to be seeing it kind of between about noon and 3 p.m. And then even over as far east as, say, parts of Jeff Davis and Acadia Parish, Evangeline, those areas kind of between that 12 and 3 o'clock p.m. time frame. Now for Acadiana, Lafayette, New Iberia, up towards Opelousas, Marksville, you're going to be looking at it between about 3 and 6 p.m. for that time frame for that squall line to actually come through. That's going to be your highest risk time frame for severe weather. Now there could be, we're expecting some of these showers and thunderstorms you can see here to kind of form out in front of our main squall line. Any one of those individual cells could potentially be strong to severe. So bear that in mind. The severe thunderstorms aren't going to be just within the squall line itself, but could be out ahead of it as well. But I think the majority of the severe weather is actually going to be within the squall line as it pushes through the region. So that kind of gives you an idea as far as the timing of the system. But again, that is subject to change as we go through the next couple of days. Taking a quick look at the 7-day forecast here, you can see it is going to be windy. It's going to continue to be windy tonight, tomorrow, and into Wednesday as well. And I'm going to talk about why here in just a second before we jump into your questions. But you can see once the front moves through on Wednesday, we're looking at pretty nice conditions. It is going to be a little bit warmer, upper 70s. Through the end of the week, we are going to be looking at bringing the rain chances back into the forecast Friday night into Saturday, but Thursday and Friday are looking pretty nice, and Sunday looking pretty nice as well. So all in all, not too bad of a weekend, just a brief period there where we could see some added showers and thunderstorms for Saturday, but not too bad of a forecast overall. I want to jump over here real quick and kind of show you, this is actually a map of wind. And I realize this might be kind of hard to see. Let me actually see if I can make this full screen here so you can get a little bit better look at it. So what we're looking at here is the winds, and we're actually looking at forecast winds on Wednesday. And you can see those strong southerly winds continuing across the region there. But what I want to do now is actually, I'm going to move up in the atmosphere. So we're looking at here at ground level where we are. But if you jump up, if you look a little bit higher up, let me see if I can do this here. There we go. So we're looking at a couple of thousand feet in the atmosphere here, and you can actually see the winds up there are actually significantly stronger. I can actually click on this and put some wind speeds on there. You see 70 miles per hour. This is what we call a low-level jet stream. So these are very strong winds that actually form just off the surface. And when we're talking about the development of showers and thunderstorms, some of these winds can actually get pushed down to the ground. So when we're talking about 60, 70, 80 mile per hour damaging straight line winds, this is where it's coming from. It's actually coming from higher up in the atmosphere where these winds are much stronger. So when these get pushed down to the surface, that's when we get our strong straight line damaging wind gusts. And that appears to be the case. The other thing I want to show you, I'm going to go even higher up in the atmosphere here to it's about 500 millibars, which is about halfway through our atmosphere. You see the winds up that way are even higher than that. Now, these aren't going to actually make it all the way down to the surface. You see 100 plus miles an hour over there across southeast Texas. But what this does is actually enhances the development of those strong storms along that squall line. So you can see that very much expected to be in place here as we go into Wednesday. So that kind of gives you an idea of kind of what's going on in the atmosphere to kind of prime the atmosphere. And of course, with the strong southerly winds, not just here at the surface, but also aloft in the higher levels of the atmosphere, that gives a lot of moisture coming in off the Gulf of Mexico to produce some very heavy rainfall and provide a lot of energy for those storms. So that kind of gives you an idea as to what the atmospheric setup is with regards to this severe weather event as well. So that's what we have here from the National Weather Service this afternoon. As always, if you have a question, feel free to post them in our comment section. We're going to try to answer as many of them as we can. One of the neat little features about this new broadcast software we're using is, for one thing, I can go a lot further back into the comments so I can see them further. But also, I can kind of put them on the screen here, hopefully. So if we do have a question, I can put it on there so you can see which question I'm answering as I'm answering it. So let me just run through some of your questions here. Okay. So we're getting a bug report here from a couple of people saying you can't rewind this broadcast. I'll have to look into that and see if there's a way I can adjust that. But thank you for letting us know that. Again, we're trying some new software here, and it's bound to be full of bugs. So just kind of bear with us. But thanks for letting me know, and we'll definitely take a look into that. Earl says, for Halloween, I want to dress as Donald Jones. I actually had a kid dress up as me for Halloween a couple of years ago after the hurricanes. It was really cute. Rima says, admit it, you missed us. I missed you. I don't miss the weather that's associated with you. Kind of like y'all feel about me. Okay, just reading through the comments here, not seeing too many questions. I mean, everybody knows everything that's going on 100%, right? So I'm not going to get anybody saying that I did a terrible job here and that I was wrong and that you're sad because you didn't die in a tornado. Janet says, I didn't die, but I almost lost the windshield from hail in Lake Charles. We did get some reports of some small hail in Lake Charles. It wasn't all over Lake Charles, but I did have a few people in the Lake Charles area tell me they heard some small hail. Marilyn asks if there's, let's see if I can put it on the screen here. Any idea about the Gulf area out east and far east of southeast Louisiana to a straight line across Mississippi line? That's awfully specific. Like come down from Mississippi and go left towards South Louisiana. I'm not even sure what area you're talking about. But I think the area you're asking about is actually covered by the forecast office in the New Orleans area, which is actually the office in Slidell, Louisiana. They cover southeast Louisiana and coastal portions of Mississippi, so they'll have more specifics about it than I am, or I will. But there is overall a severe weather risk in that area as well. Now, just like we were talking about earlier, the overall severe weather risk, I'll put the the map back up here for you to take a look at here, is going to be higher the further north you go. But still kind of the North Shore, Lake Pontchartrain, and then coastal parts of Mississippi and points further north, you are looking at a severe weather risk, even down into the New Orleans area, still looking at a slight risk. So it may not be quite as high of a risk, but you are still looking at a risk for severe weather Wednesday. As far as timing, you're going to be looking more probably Wednesday late afternoon into Wednesday evening as far as the time frame for that weather to actually get into that area. Jackie says, what about Lake Charles? I have a doctor's appointment Wednesday morning. Again, we are looking at a severe weather risk in the Lake Charles area. It's not going to be all day. It's just going to be kind of along and immediately ahead of that squall line. We're looking at it around midday. So based on what we're seeing right now, early morning, you're probably going to be okay. Rima asks, is there a reason that we, the Beaumont-Port Arthur area, often sit on a line between risk levels, or is it random? Does the coast have something to do with it? I think you answered some of that question. Would the lake and Sabine impact that too? That's part of it. You're not wrong about that. The other thing is the way these graphics are created, sometimes there is kind of a disjoint between one day and the next. So we're looking at, this is our day 3 forecast. So this is basically Wednesday. If we go back and look at Tuesday, you'll see kind of this same area, but it's just kind of switched back further to the west. That's not to say that the area in between the two are necessarily out of the overall risk. It's just that the graphic created from one day to the next sometimes doesn't completely overlap the way it should. That's just kind of the way that our graphics are created. I know it's not ideal, but the other factor, kind of like you said, the Beaumont-Port Arthur area, you are very much closer to the coast than areas further to the north. So the overall severe weather risk generally is going to be a little bit lower because you are impacted by that marine layer. So, count yourself fortunate in that regard. In this case, you can see, you're kind of right on the border there between that marginal risk and slight risk. So the general overall risk is going to be a little bit lower, being as you are so close to the coastline. But that doesn't mean that you should completely let your guard down, because there is still certainly the risk of severe weather, especially damaging winds, because when it comes to damaging winds, that's not nearly as heavily influenced by the marine layer as something like, say, a tornado, which has to be pretty close to the ground to actually develop. As we were talking about with those strong winds earlier, they start much higher up in the atmosphere and they get pushed down. So a lot of times that will that won't necessarily be affected by the marine layer. So I think your overall risk is going to be much more for damaging winds and possibly some large hail than it is severe weather. I mean, not severe weather, tornadoes. Damaging wind is severe. Ring was asking about showers tomorrow. No, we're not expecting much in the way of showers tomorrow. The majority of the rainfall is going to be on Wednesday. BJ is asking, when is this? This is Wednesday. Wednesday during the day, depending on where you're at, it's going to be either kind of late morning to mid to late afternoon. For Southeast Texas, it's going to be late morning. For, say, Acadiana, Lafayette, New Iberia, you're going to be looking at more of a late afternoon event. But it's all going to be on Wednesday. Michael says, Donald, how are you measuring wind speed 1,000 feet into the atmosphere? Well, the graphic behind me that you saw, that's just a computer model. That's not an actual measurement. But we do those measurements in the real world by using weather balloons. We launch weather balloons here normally twice a day. Right now, we're actually doing it 4 times a day because of the severe weather coming up. And that will actually measure every second as it lifts through the atmosphere on that balloon. It'll measure the wind speed and direction of the wind, as well as the temperature, humidity, lots of different parameters there, and all of that gets sent back to us to be analyzed. So we wish we could do it in real time every moment of every day, but we have to kind of limit how many weather balloons we actually send up. But right now it's 4 times a day we actually do that. What I showed you just there was actually a computer model, though, that models those winds. Maquieta? Yeah, I'm probably butchering that. Is the weather in Lake Charles area expected to be all throughout Lake Charles or primarily north of south of I-10? The risk is about the same pretty much across all of Lake Charles. There's not any real differentiation between risk levels north or south of I-10. It's pretty much all going to be about the same. You can see pretty much the entire region here from basically kind of north of Cameron all the way up to Fort Polk is in the same overall risk level. Darlene's asking, will the line of storms push into Alabama and Georgia? Yes, we're expecting the storm. It's going to move basically kind of west to east across the entire central and eastern part of the U.S. I don't have the map for it here, but you can see this cold front as it pushes through going into Thursday. You see it there getting into Alabama and Georgia. So this is going to be more of a Thursday event for you as opposed to when we're expecting it here on Wednesday. But it will be moving from west to east, so it will be moving through Alabama and Georgia and eventually off the East Coast here as we get to the end of the week. Patrick says that we are able to rewind the YouTube broadcast. I can't independently verify that at the moment, but we're going to take a look at that and see if there's anything can be done with regards to the rewinding. That'll be something we're going to have to take a look at. Claudia asks, is there a tornado and hail threat? There is a tornado and hail threat. I think the biggest threat overall right now is going to be for damaging winds more so than tornadoes and hail. But yes, there will also be a tornado and hail threat as well. Lorna asks, can you show the map with, so I'm told we can't actually rewind on YouTube here. So if you want to rewind in real time, you can actually do so on our YouTube page. And again, we are going to look into doing that on Facebook and Twitter. But yeah, she wants to see the timing and slow it down for Lake Charles. Okay, well, here's noontime with the primary squall line here west of the Lake Charles area, but we are going to be looking at some showers and thunderstorms in that area. I don't have it hour by hour, so the next one I have is actually 3 p.m., by which point we expect it to be through Lake Charles. So between noon and 3 p.m., that's when we're expecting that squall line to push through the Lake Charles area. At least for right now. But again, you know, I want to have the caveat there once again that this is subject to change, being as we are still 2 days away from the actual event. Chris and Becky asks, what time frame in Southeast Texas for storms? Again, we're looking at, for that area, we're looking at probably a little bit earlier in the morning between about 9 a.m. and noon. So this is 9 a.m. You can see it just kind of getting into Southeast Texas. And then this is noontime right into the Beaumont Orange area and then parts of Jasper, Newton. So maybe a little bit closer to right around the noontime hour, late morning into very early afternoon for Southeast Texas. Tricia says, no one will say you did a terrible job, Don. No, plenty of people will say I did a terrible job, but that's okay. That comes with the territory of being a weatherman. A couple of people asking about St. Landry Parish, Renee and Dine. That probably sounded fancier than it should. As far as St. Landry Parish, as far as timing, you're going to be looking at more of a late afternoon event. So once again, we're looking at time frame between about this is 3 o'clock. So at this point, the squall line itself is just to the west of St. Landry Parish, and you can see some of those individual showers and thunderstorms. I wouldn't be surprised at this point to say maybe as early as about 1 o'clock. So between about 1 and 4 or 5 p.m., that's going to be kind of the time frame you're looking at. Across that area, with the squall line itself moving through probably sometime between 3 and 5 or so. Again, keep in mind, this is subject to change. This is kind of a first estimate. In fact, I even kind of debated about whether or not to even put this on here. But I did want to kind of give you an idea as far as the timing. Josie says, I'm worried about going to Baton Rouge on Wednesday for the doctor's appointment. I need to go, so can't reschedule. Just hope I'm back home by the time this storm hits. Depending on what time you go, it may be better to hang out in Baton Rouge until the squall line actually gets through there, which probably won't be until sometime in the evening. But once it passes, then you should be fine to drive back. So that may be something to consider. Jonathan says he's watching YouTube and the comments are shut off. Okay, That's something we're going to have to reverse. Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan's actually our hydrologist here at our office. That was probably done by someone higher up than me, so we'll have to see if we can get that undone. But thank you, Jonathan. Again, these little quirks we're going to have to work out with this new software program. But this is all very good information. Thanks for letting me know. Patrick kind of saying the same thing. The YouTube broadcast does not allow you to use the live chat. I do want to allow that if I can, so I'm sure that's a setting we're going to have to try to get adjusted. Thank you for that, Patrick, though. Arima says, so should I remember that it's actually not static, but it's moving? That's right. That's exactly right. It's not necessarily, the risk is not a static. In reality, the risk is not static. It shows up as static on our images here, but the risk is moving with the storm system. So yes, you're correct. Brittany asks, comparison-wise to the other day for Calcasieu Parish, is it going to be better this round as far as the severity? It depends what you consider better. Most of Lake Charles got out of, and Calcasieu Parish for that matter, got out of that other event without seeing too much in the way of severe weather. That may or may not be the case, this time around. We are looking at a severe weather risk. I can't promise you that, you're going to see severe weather. I can't promise you that you're not. That's the thing about meteorology and about weather. When the ingredients are right, we know that there's likely to be severe weather somewhere, but we can't tell you exactly where it's going to occur. As far as comparison, the last event had a higher overall risk of tornadoes. I don't expect quite as high of a risk of tornadoes with this event. I think the bigger threat is going to be damaging winds. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean we can't get a tornado or that we won't get a tornado. There is still the possibility. It's just lower than it was with the event last week. Amanda asks, is this another get out if you live in a mobile home kind of day in Lake Charles? Yeah, I would say it probably is, especially, when that squall line's rolling through, because again, we're talking about the possibility of 60, 70, 80 mile an hour winds. Those are certainly enough to knock over mobile homes and trailers and such. Tornado or not, it's still, those are certainly, you're talking about a Category 1 hurricane essentially as far as wind speeds go, and that's enough to cause some significant damage. The good news with this system is I don't expect it to be quite as long lasting as the last one. So you may only need to find another shelter for maybe an hour or two as that squall line moves through. And we'll refine the exact times of that down here in the next day and a half or so. Instead of having to go hunker down with somebody overnight, maybe you just go to a store, go get some fresh produce or something for an hour or two, and then the squall line will pass and you'll probably be fine thereafter. 92.9 The Lake says many residents in Southwest Louisiana are dealing with decaying blue tarps on their roof, and the last thing we need right now are high winds. I couldn't agree with you more. There are still a lot of damaged roofs out there, and just like we were talking about with the trailers and the mobile homes, in those cases it may be better to try to find a shelter or a home or somewhere that has been repaired, because that's going to be an overall lower risk than you would experience if you were trying to ride it out in some kind of a damaged home, especially when it comes to roofs. If the wind gets into that roof, it could potentially lift the roof off the house or damage it further, which could cause a more serious situation. So just kind of like with trailers and such, if you can find a non-damaged structure to ride the storm out in for an hour or two, that's probably going to be your better option. Rima says, can we come see a balloon launch? When we start allowing tours back into our office, yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you out here for a balloon launch. I think we're finally getting back to that point. We've been under all of these COVID protocols the last couple of years, but I think those are finally beginning to be relaxed. So hopefully very soon we'll be allowed to do some tours again. Shoot us a direct message on Facebook and we can try to set that up for you at some point soon. Kevin says you're welcome. Kevin's my brother. He helped me set this up. He wants credit. There, I gave him credit. Everybody say, yay, Kevin. Now tell him to go away. Amanda says, will we get another update before Wednesday? Yes, we're going to do another one of these live briefings tomorrow. We'll have another one probably also Wednesday morning as well. So we will continue to provide our live updates. I didn't have the next briefing up here But yes, we will do another one tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning sometime, and then maybe another one tomorrow afternoon. So yes, there will be more. And the details of that will be posted on our social media pages once we get that. I want to try to see if we can work out some of these kinks first. Jervis asked, so this isn't a supercell scenario like last week. It may be. I can't rule out the possibility of a few supercells developing ahead of that squall line, but I think the squall line is going to be the bigger overall threat. Can't completely rule out a supercell or two ahead of that line, though. But I don't think there's going to be as many as we saw kind of ahead of that line with the event last week. Joe asked, what is the YouTube page? The YouTube page, I don't know what the link is, but it's basically just, go to YouTube. It's NWS Lake Charles.
I answered his question.
Okay. Liz says, I just got my veggie garden planted. What will the wind and rain look like in Jennings? It's not going to be long-lived, but we are going to be looking at a period of very heavy rain and some gusty winds. Unfortunately, that garden may get battered a little bit, as all of our newly planted gardens may. If they haven't been planted yet, maybe try to provide some shelter for those plants. But yeah, it's going to be a rough day for gardens on Wednesday. Elizabeth says, Donald Jones, if you don't text me back. You didn't text me back. I'll text you back, Liz. Remus says, gusts of 80 are nothing to scoff at. No, again, to kind of put it in perspective, you're talking about that would be a not low-end Category 1 hurricane. So, that's certainly capable of causing some significant damages. That's certainly capable of causing some power outages as well. That's something we didn't mention yet, but that's also going to be a possibility. $92.90 Lake says, is that a dot matrix printer I hear in the background? No, that's an air conditioner. That is a rattling air conditioner that does a terrible job of air conditioning this room, which is why I'm sweating right now. Terry asks, we have to leave on a trip Wednesday. What can I expect that night? By Wednesday night, this should all be well east of the area, so you should be fine for traveling either east or west by Wednesday night. It's just Wednesday during the day right now. All right, not seeing too many more questions at the moment, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up our briefing for the time being. We are going to try to work on those kinks that we've identified here with our new streaming software. Although all in all, I think it's gone a whole lot better than our last attempt where we were freezing up like crazy. So hopefully we can build on that and kind of expand our audience and our reach with regards to these briefings. We will have another one of these briefings again tomorrow. I'll plan on doing one probably tomorrow, say mid-morning-ish. I'll have details about that posted on our social media accounts before then, and then we'll probably have another one again tomorrow afternoon and probably also Wednesday morning ahead of the actual severe weather itself. So most likely several more live briefings to come here with the latest and greatest information for you at that time for that. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, it is going to remain quite windy through the rest of the day today and through a good part of the day tomorrow. So just kind of bear that in mind as you go about your day, that you're going to be dealing with some winds both on the roadways as well as any loose or light outdoor objects that may get blown around or down the street. I've had trash all over my neighborhood because it was trash day this morning. So just kind of bear that in mind as we go forward here, that it's going to be windy until that cold front actually moves through. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. It's going to be a nice afternoon otherwise. Still plenty of sunshine out there for at least one more day. I don't think tomorrow's going to be too bad either, but going downhill on Wednesday ahead of that front. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.